Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. I'm Matt, and wrapping the year of 2025 up with my brother, Austin Douglas. How you doing today?
Fantastic. I'm excited to be here and ready for the new year.
Yeah. Dude, it's been a year. 2025 has been a massive year. Andrew, the guy who coaches us in podcasting, which we're going to be releasing some more stuff with and around him here coming up, but he described 2025 as the year of discovery. And I really liked that kind of sentiment that he put toward it, because it was a massive year of growth for us as far as studio production. Like if you guys scroll back a year ago to what the studio looked like compared to now, and just wait, because 2 months from now it's going to look leagues beyond even what you're seeing at the moment with the plans we have. But a year ago to now was a drastic difference, probably the biggest difference we've made in a year's time since the show started. But I really liked how he said a year of discovery, and the concept of like discovering purpose, discovering passion, discovering what you can create, discovering where you want to direct those creative forces, and really laying the battleground, I suppose you could say, for what's coming in 2026. And I felt like that's definitely very true of what we've gone through this year.
I agree. It's been so, well, obviously from the beginning, and especially with your determination, it's just been trial by fire, trial and error, and especially this past year, and with Andrew's guidance, of course, like there's been a lot of, well, why don't you guys do this? And we're like,
why aren't we doing that?
Why aren't we doing that? And then, hey, I love that you guys are doing this, but maybe let's put this twist on it. And we're like, Yep, makes sense. That makes sense. And so, yeah, discovery is a really, really good word to use there. And I think not only for the beautiful part about it, I would say, is not only that it's been a discovery of how to optimize and to bring this podcast to more and more people. It's also just been a discovery of self, discovery of those around us, a discovery of ways to have us be more and more close, and a discovery of new and exciting, impossible individuals that we've been finding along the way. Discovery of school, discovery of those who were a part of that community, and to the future ones who will be there. It's really, really exciting, and I think discovery is a very precise way of describing what this year has been.
Yeah, I think it's a great term, and to me, it's particularly exciting to think for what we have planned coming in 2026. But we're going to save all that for next week for you guys. So if you want to learn more about what 2026 is going to bring to you and to Impossible Performance, watch next week's episode, because it's going to be huge. For this week, we want to dive in to and really recap a lot of this year, but not recap so much like what we've done, so much as what we've learned and who we've got the opportunity to sit with at this table and have these intense, amazing, meaningful, powerful conversations with. And before we dive into that, though, I want to remind you guys, as always, the number one thing and the only thing we ask of you is, if you get something out of these episodes, please share it with as many people as you know who you think it could help, because that is, at the end of the day, how we spread everything we're working to do at Impossible Performance, and it's ultimately how we achieve our mission and realize the vision we have for what we're doing. And if you want to dive deeper into this conversation, become part of the conversation of the podcast and Impossible Performance off camera and behind the scenes, then click the top link in the show notes and join our school community, because as this episode comes out, there are only 2 more days to join the school community totally free of charge. And once you join free of charge, you will gain lifetime access free of charge. So as the price slowly increases, as the value increases, you will still have free access to those resources. And that is huge. It is a community and a platform unlike any other. It's kind of like a social media educational community platform. And it's the way you guys are going to see social media move, because right now more than ever, and I'm sure you listening right now, all of us are craving authenticity right now more than anything. In the revolution, the tidal wave of AI that we are just now experiencing the very beginning of, content is going to become more and more and more artificially generated. I don't want to say fake, but it's going to be artificial. And people are wanting less and less to consume artificial content. First of all, because of the sheer amount of it. But second of all, it's like looking at food. We can't just eat processed food our whole lives. Yeah, sure, it tastes good, it feels good for a second, just like artificially generated content, but it doesn't lead to lasting, driving growth and peace. And I think really these authentic conversations that we bring to this platform are going to be the way to really bring that lasting growth going forward. And I think similarly to that, platforms like School are going to allow you to jump into a community of like-minded individuals, all working toward the same ideals in their own individual pursuits. And we all get to grow and learn from each other together without ads, without bots, without any of the divisiveness you're seeing on social media today. So it is a really powerful platform. We have courses on there. We do monthly webinars, monthly group calls, all kinds of great things that we have for you guys on there. So click the link, at least just go on and check it out. And it's totally free to join right now. So you might as well, for the next 2 days it's available to you, might as well just jump on for free, create your account now so you can start getting the value and the benefit from it, and you will have free access for life. So check out that link, join in the conversation behind the scenes of the podcast, and see some of the cool things and the benefits you guys get from that. But with that, let's dive into today's episode. So we're going to take a trip today, and honestly it's probably going to be more of a trip for me and Austin even than you guys, because we are so intimately tied to each of these episodes, and we can remember the challenges that came from that may not show up on the camera necessarily, but the things we run into. So I'm actually going to take my phone today, and we're going to scroll back, and we're going to revisit the past episodes of this year. Started out with an episode kind of us together, because a year ago you were just coming off of your bone marrow transplant.
Yeah. And
that's crazy to think.
Yeah, that it's been an entire year from that, from where I was mentally and not just physically, just the exhaustion and the sort of trauma that came from that, you know, in the physical sense, but in the mental sense and the emotional sense, that was just, I think in the moment I was setting all of that to the side and just thankful that I had the energy. At least I had some energy there. I was able to muster up something, and I drove 3 hours down here because my grandfather went to Florida for a month, and he gave me his house just to relax in, because I also needed to be isolated with having a 1-month-old immune system, and coming down here and trying to get some kind of content, some kind of, you know, podcast out, just talking to people was just so, it was such a relief to come down here and to record that and to at least just see y'all down here and then go back up for the you know, for the middle of the week where I was just isolated and twiddling my thumbs. So yeah.
Well, it had to be therapeutic for yourself too. That's what I found a lot of what this podcast can do is it can be therapeutic for us in a sense, just to be able to talk through some of these experiences we have, and then really the lessons we learn from them, and not just having the realization of the good that can come from them, but also just being able to literally sit down in real time and process and work through those things, work through those emotions, work through those thoughts in our head as we experience them.
Well, and that's what the Parts Unknown and the Imperfect Harmony series were.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they were. It was me offering a particular challenge that I was facing either recently or in that moment, and just saying, hey, let's talk this through a little bit. Take this a little bit of take the journey down whatever river that we were on in that moment, or I was on, and just trying to work some stuff out, and also especially in January and February and well into March. Like I from my time in Houston, I realized, I don't know if you remember, but when you would call me when I was down there, we would just have some nice conversations, but I didn't realize at the time, but you had made the comment, you're like, dude, like mentally, like sentences were kind of just going off into the ether.
I remember that, dude. It was like you were saying words, but it was like you weren't there.
Yeah.
That was terrifying, because not only was I hearing that, but you were freaking half a country away.
Yeah.
And basically on your own, from a physical standpoint. And that was a stark contrast.
Well, and to have that, so but I especially knew and prepared for that kind of being where I was going to be in January of this year, was very similar, in a very similar position to that. And so, but having those two series lined up and ready to go, and knowing that I wanted to accomplish something productive during that time, allowed me to kind of take the mental sense and really focus with it. Because in Houston, I was rotting away in an Airbnb playing video games. But for post BMT, the first few weeks, I was in limbo. But once January hit, about a month out from the treatment portion, I knew that I'm like, I got to start writing. I really need to make sure that the brain is back and able to recover from this too. And because it wasn't something I'd focused on before, but now I knew what was coming. We had an idea of what opposition was going to be on the battlefield. And so those series were just me trying to get some thoughts out there that may have been coherent. I haven't listened to those episodes all the way through in quite some time, and that would be good to go through and sort of jump off of that and continue those, I would say, in a much more maybe coherent sense, but also just to jump off the ideas and in terms of like, let's keep the flow going, because they were a lot of fun. They were certainly a lot of fun, and we obviously intend to continue to have those little series pop up with us. But yeah, that was a wild time, wild time. Yeah,
it would be interesting to go back and listen to those, just like going back and listening to some of the very first episodes we recorded. Just hearing the difference, and then specifically realizing the contrast in the person you are then versus the person you are now. And I always think that's a really as challenging of an experience as that can be sometimes, to go back and hear some of those older episodes. It's always really gratifying to see the growth you've made as a human between just a year ago and now. A year ago that can seem so long ago. And that kind of takes us to the first guest we had in January of 2025, which was one Mr. Jaden Lucaria, which was such a cool experience for us, because at the time he was, I would say, definitely the biggest as far as audience-wise goes guest that we've had on the podcast. So that was really, really cool, just to see him in our studio, to be able to sit down and chat with him and learn from him. And what's cool about that is, even though that episode was a year ago, there's still so many lessons I remember taking away from that. And I think it was a message you and I really needed to hear at that time. But also it was a message I think we were excited to share with the listeners. And so much of it came down to, because Jaden is and I don't think he had his pro card at the time. Maybe he had just gotten he had just gotten his pro card.
I believe he had just
gotten his pro card. But he hadn't competed as a pro yet. That came later in 2025. But so many of the lessons he was teaching us were about discipline and consistency, and this idea that if you want to achieve great things, you have to do honestly rather mundane things very repeatedly with a high level of discipline for a very long time. And that's how you achieve great things. And it's not always this beautiful, glorious, picturesque feeling every single day. It's no, I don't want to do this. Doesn't matter. I've got to do this because I want to win. I have greatness that I want to achieve. And I think I'd learned and felt that probably more from Jaden than any other guest we'd had to that point. And that was a really, really cool experience. I can't remember, were you able to be here for that Jaden episode, or were you still in quarantine? Okay, I couldn't remember. So that makes it even cooler because you were kind of
probably should have been in quarantine, but it was later in January, so we were fine.
What do doctors even know anyway?
They're fine. They're fine.
We educate them all the time,
precisely,
on what the true limits or lack thereof
define
of
the
human
odds
potential are
in all subjects.
Yes, sir. But that's also really cool because you were kind of at the precipice of going in more heavily than you had ever done before into your hypertrophy journey.
Yeah, and it was really cool to have somebody of that caliber on the show, and there wasn't much picking the brain, I would say, in terms of like the hypertrophy regimen, only because I was not much brain sitting there in the couch, because we still had the couches back then. But it was awesome to see, again, to have somebody of that level on the show with it's always one thing to like see bodybuilders on YouTube and all that stuff, but it's another thing to see them in person and be like, humans can do that. Like, humans can look like this, there's a lot that goes into it, yes, but and that's just, it's seeing, like, especially when you talk about the discipline and the consistency, it's the proof, and the proof is in the pudding, and right there he is, like, he's sitting beside us. Mm-hmm. It is possible, and that is, seeing that in person right there is most certainly something that you can't take for granted, especially in my case, that I was most certainly at that point I had made the full decision of like, I'm post BMT, there's no reason for me to even try to go back into powerlifting. I want to do hypertrophy, I want to look good, and I want to feel good, but I also don't want to take my CNS by the throat and just shake it wildly. So, and that, and so it was incredible to have him on.
Yeah, it was cool. And one of the little snippets that will always stick with me from that, and that I still quote today, I just did recently on a podcast, is there was one point where he was talking about basically just like, how do you live a normal life and still adhere with high level of discipline to the things you have to do? And one of the things that came up were like, do you go out to dinner with friends? What does that look like? And I'll never forget what he said, because he said he wasn't like, no, screw everybody else, I don't go out, hang out with anybody, I'm just this like caveman that only lives in my apartment and only eats these meals. And the great thing about Jaden is that he's still such a personable human and such a great networker, and builds such phenomenal relationships with people within his area of passion in his industry. And he said, he's like, if you have a group of friends where your friendship is predicated on you going out and eating pizza with them every Friday night, you probably need to find a different group of friends. Yeah. Because he said, I can still go out with friends whenever I want, and I just bring my meal. He's like, then I stay completely on my plan. I still get to hang out with the people I love and still build relationships with them, and the food's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, what's a pizza mean? It doesn't mean anything. He's like, I'm still there sharing a meal with them. It just, my meal looks different than theirs. There's no problem with that. And I remember thinking like, man, that's awesome, because we do have that in day-to-day life. Like, if you are a highly disciplined person who sticks to a disciplined meal plan or training regimen or whatever it is, you may have people in your life saying, oh man, just take a night off, just come live a little, eat some pizza with us. Like, one night's not going to kill you. One slice of pizza is not going to kill you. Well, if you're an IFBB pro bodybuilder, it will derail your plans if it's not scheduled in. And even if you're not an IFBB pro bodybuilder, because I'm sure most of our listeners are not, one night of going out and binging on pizza may totally derail you for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe it's the thing that just kills your momentum and you fall off the wagon of what you're trying to pursue. So it can actually be quite a big deal. And true friends that really want to see you win and succeed and grow and achieve your goals would never want to see you derail your plan just to eat pizza with them. And we're using pizza as an analogy because that's what Jaden used, but it could be anything. True friends would not want to see you go off the path. In fact, seeing you stay on the path and still share in time with them,
they
but still stay true to your goals, that's going to fire them up more than anything. And so that's something that's really, really stuck with me from that episode. I think it's a powerful piece we can kind of all take forward into our day-to-day lives.
And that one line there that you said, that is very much at least the broken record that I had heard growing up was, oh, live a little. Yes. Just take a load off just for this one evening. And it's like, listen, the pathway that I'm going down right now allows me to live every single moment of every single day. I'm extremely happy with what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve and the pathway of me going there. Do not drag me down to your level of sad, depressive nature, because this one evening of yours is to live a little and to relax and to relax the rules, like to loosen up a little bit. It's like, that's very much not the mindset that you should have in those moments. When you come into those moments and you're like, hey, I want to relax a little bit, fine. That's fine. But when you invite the friends over, you want them to adhere to your rules on how to relax. If you're relaxing that Saturday evening is having pizza and having a few beers, fine. Mm-hmm. That is totally fine. But why on earth would you require everybody else to adhere to that? Now, if you have the friends that come in and say, oh, yeah, dude, I love some pizza, I love some beer, or I love this, I love that. And again, this is my example because small town Northwestern Ohio, guess what you have on a Saturday night with friends? Pizza and beer. That's just what they do. And kudos. Awesome. If you enjoy that, that is fantastic. But if there's a friend in your group that's like, pizza's been really, bothering me, I'm going to have something else, but I'd love to still come out. If you're really going to say, no, you have to eat this. If you don't eat this pizza with us, you're like, damn you to hell. What? Yeah. What? Yeah. Don't sit here and toss onto me this pitiful requirement of, oh, live a little. Don't. No. You are not the determinant of me living a little.
Yeah, and if somebody's using that line, live a little, and they're trying to like take you off of the path or the goals you have set for yourself, they're probably doing that because they want to see you come down a peg or two, mm-hmm. so that they feel better about their own lack of discipline or their own lack of chasing
and insecurity.
Greatness.
And that's just not to I'll step off the soapbox, but that statement is something that is deeply seated in me that I've heard so many times. Oh, live a little. I promise you that the amount that I'm living right now is, one, I'm thankful to be alive right now. Fun fact, I may not have that for the rest of my life. I don't know. That may be taken away from me. So do not dare for one moment ask me to relax a little bit and to step down to your level. Don't. Yeah. No, you should want me to continue to climb that mountain as I want you to climb whatever mountain you're climbing.
Exactly.
I didn't tell you to stop eating the pizza and the beer. Don't tell me to join you, otherwise, piss off. No. Yeah. It's a two-way street. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I agree. And that's a friend that you definitely need to be like, listen, man, I'm going to be over here, or I'm just, hey, I got something else going on.
Yeah. So. And if you're in a spot right now, you guys listening, where you have friends that are constantly trying to derail your goals, and you feel like you have to avoid your friends so that you can stay on the path, kind of harkening back to what Jaden said, maybe it's time to find some new friends in the year of 2026.
Still talk to them about it. Don't just ghost them.
You don't have to totally disassociate.
Yeah.
But
talk to them.
Maybe you want to surround yourself. Maybe you want to put yourself in a room with different people,
right,
who are going to drive you to that success that you're chasing. So that was Jaden.
Yeah, right.
First podcast guest starting off strong, and I'm afraid the strength of the flow is not going to go any weaker with our next, because we go straight from Jaden into our first true encounter with one Mr. Curtis Miller, who has he just pervaded the theme of 2025. And I will say, if there's probably one guest that was brought up more than any other on 2025, it was probably Curtis Miller, because, well, I think he had an impact on both of us through that episode, although I don't believe you were able to be there for that specific
Not for the
recording.
First one.
Yeah, for the second one, because he was on twice in 2025. But he had an immense impact on my journey, as 2025 was the year that I first squatted, well, and the only time I've ever squatted truly 500 pounds. And he was an integral part of that entire journey, and honestly, from start to end, an integral part of this entire year. And what I learned from him, what we were able to share from him to you guys, our listeners, was just unbelievable. But the one thing I will say, especially about the first episode with Curtis, I remember, because we'd like run into Curtis a couple times before, shared a few chats, but we not really got to spend good quality time with him until that episode. And I think I even opened the episode talking about this, but the number one thing that like completely, like starkly was apparent to me from the moment I met Curtis or really spent time with him was that he never said one word negative about another human being. Which sounds like such a simple thing to say, but until you're around somebody who truly adheres to that, you will find that that is an incredibly rare thing to come across. In finding somebody that just does not speak one word negative about another human being. And I think that that is such a powerful discipline and such a powerful aspect to build into our daily lives and in our own personal approach, because one theory that not a theory, but just an idea that I've really become drawn to here recently that has started to pop up, and I've woven it into my algorithm because I like the reminder. They say poor people speak about other people. Rich people speak about ideas and growth. And I think that that's such a powerful aspect because, and when I say rich and poor, I don't mean financially. Yeah, that may correlate over the long term, but I mean rich and poor in spirit, which is something we all have access to, regardless of our finances or our resources or whatever else we measure life by. I'm talking rich and poor in spirit. And that's so powerful because, honestly, spending time talking about other people, especially talking negatively about other people, or trying to bring them down or tear them down, or even worse, speak negatively of them so you feel better about yourself, spending time doing that is not actually pushing you further toward any goal. But speaking about ideas and growth and challenging topics, those are concepts that are going to challenge you and push you forward. And so Curtis's dedication to just simply not speak negatively about somebody else and rather use that time and energy towards speaking either positively about people or just simply speaking about ideas that will challenge you and help you grow. That was such a stark thing that I noticed about him from the beginning. And I think it's such a powerful driver of what he does in the coaching space and in the strength community.
Well, it's extremely similar to Jordan Peterson's idea of tell the truth or at least don't lie. Tell the truth about someone, be excited about them, yada, 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 or at least don't lie. At least if you're going to talk about them, it's either in a good manner, tell them the truth, or at least don't lie, be constructive.
Yeah.
Share an idea with them that might be constructive towards them becoming a better person. Because if you want to talk bad about somebody, it's that they've done something either unto you or unto somebody else that you just don't agree with. And it could be a show of insecurity from you. It could be a show of anger, and it could be extremely it could be unearned anger from their part onto you that you're just shoving off onto them. Tell the truth or at least don't lie. Talk kind and positively about them, or at least offer some constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So. Absolutely. And I think it was that first episode with Curtis that really got me feeling like, okay, when I start this final push to the 500 pounds, that is the man I want in my corner for so many reasons, but that was a quintessential part of it. And spending that time with him, I felt like he and I related and communicated on so much of a deeper level than I had with probably any coaches I'd had in the past. Again, I've had some phenomenal coaches. I don't want to speak ill of any of them, but I feel like he and I just had a deeper connection that I knew would be quintessential in in really driving toward that massively impossible goal I had. And in that conversation that he and I had really laid the groundwork and the foundation for all of that. But more to come on Curtis Miller in a bit, because I think some of the very best lessons lie later in the year. And from there we kind of dove into some solo episodes as you and I were, as you were in quarantine, and as we were kind of working to kind of build the time where we could come back together in the studio and really dive into some more challenging topics. But we had some fun conversations from there. One of them being another one with Mr. Logan Reynolds, who has been on the podcast, I think, at least as many times as any other repeat guest we've had. I think this might have been his third appearance on the podcast, I think. Yeah. That was one where we really dived deep into some of his philosophical theorems that he was constructing, because he had just earned his master's in philosophy, had just published his thesis. But the kind of the most exciting thing we talked about in that episode was him, as you just mentioned, Dr. Jordan Peterson. He actually got to share his thesis with Dr. Peterson after seeing him live, and he had actually hand-bound himself a physical copy of his thesis to give to Dr. Peterson, which was such a cool thing to hear about, because in one of the previous times, actually the time you and I saw him live with Logan, he stood up at the end in the Q&A session and said, just basically thanked him and said, "You've inspired me to pursue a master's degree in philosophy." And at that point, he hadn't even started that master's degree yet. And then fast forward a year and a half, 2 years later, and he's handing Dr. Peterson a hand-bound copy of his thesis for that master's degree. Talk about a full circle journey, a full circle moment, and doing something, actually committing to sticking to your guns and doing something you said you were going to do. That was such a cool discussion to have with him. And I mean, as you know, you just quoted him, as we've quoted him so many times on the podcast. He is a very powerful mind, a very powerful speaker, and he's driven a lot of people, including you and I and Logan, to a higher calling, to a more disciplined pursuit of things that we're passionate about, and to a higher level of achievement.
Well, and the impact that he had on Logan and obviously millions of others is the three of us, and then especially Logan, have been able to be standing beside and to in Logan's case, collaborate with a modern day philosopher that's going to be talked about for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And that, I think we need to take that very much to heart, that opportunity to have met him, to have gotten to hear him in person, for Logan twice, and to have had that experience, because that's somebody that will be talked about for for the music world. that's a Beethoven, that's a Bach right there.
Yeah. That's what I say.
That's a Chopin.
Yeah, I think in the years to come, the decades to come, we'll likely find Peterson's name amongst the Nietzsches, the Humes, the Kants, the greats of philosophy. I think Peterson will earn his place among them.
Oh, he has already.
Yeah.
He's only adding to it now. Yeah. But I believe, especially with his 12 rules for life, I mean, that's just... The impact that's had on so many people, it's countless and endless, the positive reviews of what that's done. And every time that he talks about it, he gets emotional, and I get emotional thinking about it, of just the interactions that he has, because many people ask him, he's been on the Piers Morgan Uncensored a few times, and he was asked about, like the interactions that you have with people just on the streets and stuff, like what is that like? And Dr. Jordan B. Peterson is always like 99.9% of them are always are pretty much somebody coming up and thanking him for helping them get their life together. There's one story where he was approached by a son, and the son said, wait a second. He went to the car and came back out with his father and said, like, I've gotten my life back together, and I've rekindled the relationship with my father, and it's because of you. For somebody to have that sort of impact with that much, with the wave of positivity and reinforcing that, with the ferocity that he has towards his ideas of not just telling you to, tighten up the bootstraps, but like how to do it, how to approach that, how to execute, why are you executing it, and that's just, he's done that so well in a time where so many people have needed it, and we will continue to need it. With today's society, and that's it. I think especially looking at the universities and looking at the younger men and women that are coming up through them, and especially in my experience with family of seeing like who they are becoming and who they have around them and stuff. I think we can tip. We don't know. We need to tip our hats to him for having that sort of impact. And that's, we've been very, very lucky, I feel, to have experienced him in person, and he will remain a very large staple in that mountain face with some other absolutely incredible thinkers. So.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, and it was so cool to be able to highlight that experience for Logan on the show here. It's just one thing that one of those things we'll always remember. And coming out of Logan a couple weeks later, we actually got to have one of the biggest episodes we've ever done on the podcast, and definitely one of the most deeply impactful, and that was with Miss Allie Berry, former patient champion of the Columbus Marathon and childhood cancer survivor multiple times. And she also has a community she's grown on Facebook that really motivates and drives and inspires others, but most importantly helps build a lot of awareness for childhood cancer. And it was just, I remember when you and I first met her, when you and I first heard her talk and speak. She was speaking at the Breakfast of the Champions for the 2024 Columbus Marathon. She was one of the patient champions then, and you and I just looked at each other and we're like, this girl is a rock star. We need to say hello. We've got to speak to her. And just getting to spend that time to chat with her was just such a gratifying experience, and it did my heart a lot of good just to hear the power and the conviction and the maturity that came from her, even though she's still quite young. And it became very apparent to us why so many people choose to follow her, and why so many people are eager to learn from her and grow from her, because she has just a deep level of insight into the human spirit and what it means to have a smile on your face in the face of adversity that I think so many have lost touch with. Mm-hmm. And she does it with what seems to be such ease, and it comes so naturally to her. And I know you were able to be there for that conversation, and that was definitely one of the most impactful we've had this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, with the timing, having 2 or 3 months.
I think it was April of this year.
So 3-ish months of recovery coming out of that bone marrow transplant, seeing somebody who's gone through so much as well in terms of treatment and her journey. It was just really nice to sort of collect yourself, an exploration of how to really maintain that positive spirit when seemingly everything around you wants you and is demanding you to crumble, underneath the pressure of what you were facing. And so, yeah, I haven't thought about that episode in a while, and that having her here was it was immense, at least for me, and the timing was, I think, really impeccable, because that was also after my trip to Scotland as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was able to have that entire month off to just try to make sense of what on earth had just happened.
Yeah.
And then coming back from that, having collected a lot of my thoughts, but then I think having her on here and really getting to kind of get into the weeds of what that mindset requires from the person who had done it. Again, just another moment of the proof is in the pudding of being able to get through something extremely, not just extremely, violently challenging, and being on top of that and thriving from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's there are so many people that can learn. There are so many cancer patients, at least that I can, in my experience and what I can relate to, there are so many cancer patients that I've ran into that really could really use that perspective, and to hear her experiences and how she's dealt with that. I believe that it's really something I'd say almost invaluable for a lot of patients that I know that are really not going through a good time, no matter what their treatment is like, whether it's something more simple or something extremely egregious, with the poisons that they're having to soak up and try to survive from. It really was a discussion that many people could really hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one, just talking about it now, it's definitely one that I'll be going back to listen to again. And actually, guys, we'll put all of the links from some of these more prominent episodes we've talked about. We'll put them in the show notes. So if you guys hear us talk about one of them, or you want to learn more or hear more, you'll be able to just go down in the show notes, find the name of that person, click the link, and it'll take you directly to that episode, and you can check it out and kind of experience what we're talking about in this episode in real time. But let's back up just a hair, actually, because I almost skipped over your time in Scotland post-treatment. We don't get to spend too much time on it, but just to share with everybody, what did that time mean for you, coming out of what I would venture to guess is the most challenging thing you've ever faced?
Even more life-changing than the treatment that I'd gone through. Even more, as much as it was negatively impactful, the treatment, that trip was on a scale so much larger, beneficial and impactful, positively impactful for me. The first 2 weeks, I had my nephew there with me, and just getting to share that with the next generation within the family. Something that kind of skipped a generation was the travel bug. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to share that with him and to take him on a trip, I'm like, I know that you've vacationed to other states before. We're gonna fly. Mm-hmm. We're gonna get away for a little bit, mm-hmm. and we're gonna see what happens. And I know that you're gonna have a fantastic time. And so we did Edinburgh, a little bit of Inverness, but and this was my first time up to the Isle of Skye, there in the Highlands, and just you're gonna do it again. Getting to Skye and to see, I mean, it is the most beautiful countryside that I've ever seen, and I've been to 15 countries. It was I mean, it's immense, it's breathtaking, but it honestly it steals some of that breath away when you especially when you get up to some of the heights and the vistas that you have. And I mean, just now in this moment, I'm picturing his and I's hike up to the Old Man of Store. And we were so lucky with the weather. So lucky with the weather. And that day we were hiking up there. It was like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., something like that. We started hiking. It's about an hour hike up to it, and then about 40 minutes down. We get up there, and as we're walking up, the clouds are starting to part a little bit, and we were starting to get some sunlight. I mean, some serious sunlight, and it was, because you can see for miles as you're getting up to that, as you're getting up to the stone itself, and that was just because we would walk up and it was really windy, and so we would stop, partially because I just needed a break. I was really struggling with breathing, even though we were basically at sea level. Had all the oxygen in the world, but it still wasn't enough. And so we would stop every 15, 20 minutes so I can catch my breath, and we just to turn around and to see, we could, because it's Isle of Skye it's an island, and we had a view to the north there at the for that hike. And just seeing the bays there, the islands off in the distance as well, and just the highlands. It's just these really, really dark black mountains that are in your purview, and it was such a breathtaking journey. And that's just, I mean, that was 3 hours of a month, and I can sit here and talk to you for another 15 minutes about just that hike itself. So that. Experiences like that were just incredible to have, especially with him. And then after the 2 weeks with him there, he flew back home, and I spent that next week. For the last 2 weeks, I said, okay, I'm going to give 1 week. I need to start writing. I need to write something. And I started. Technically, I had one project that was already going, which was just I write like a 1,000-word essay ish every single day, and so I'd written a few of those. But then I started our introductory Impossible novel. I started the construction and the organization of the Impossible novel, and I also started my autobiography at that point. And I mean, within 6 days, I had written over 80 pages, and so it was a lot of work. But I remember it was there in Edinburgh, and I went to St. James Quarter Square. I forget what it's called, but it's the shopping mall there. Really nice shopping mall, very nice area. And there's a coffee shop there called Black Sheep Coffee Company. It's actually a Norwegian company, but they have multiple locations there. And they had I would always get a flat white with oat milk, and they had lion's mane as an addition you could have, and I would have like 3 of those a day, like over, because I would sit and write for about an 8-hour period, and I would have 3 of those there in that 8-hour period, of course with a little bit of water, a little bit of hydration, but like mostly just that. And I was headphones on. I had the view of y'all should look it up. It's the W Hotel, like literally just the letter W Hotel of Edinburgh. It's this weird spiral cased like hotel, and that was my view. Beautiful people, beautiful cars, very expensive hotel. And so like just these incredible vehicles would pull up, S classes, just Mercedes and Porsches and Audis, and it's just gorgeous. And I sat there and write. But then the last week of Scotland, I went and rented a car and drove on the wrong side of the road. That was not fun. But I went and I explored and visited the different towns and castles of Clan Douglas. So I went and took a deep dive into my heritage, my some of the ancestral ties, And because Douglas is, there's obviously two families that I come from, of course, but it's the Douglas side that I really take to, and I'm happy to do so, and I've chosen to do so, and I obviously don't regret it. But I was able to explore where my family had mostly roamed and had quote unquote ruled, but also just had owned some property and some castles, what they did back in the day, and that was absolutely incredible. Got to see Douglas Castle in Douglas, Scotland, and went to Castle Douglas went to Thrieve Castle in Castle Douglas, Scotland, and then visited Tantallon Castle over on the southeastern coast. That was incredible. Absolutely incredible to see. And then I went to the Douglas Kirkyard and got to visit the tomb of Sir James the Good Douglas, who was the right-hand man for Sir Robert the Bruce. Or Robert the Bruce. Was he a sir? I don't remember. Apologies. But he was the right-hand man for Robert the Bruce, and that was incredible to see that and to visit that. So yeah. To say that Scotland was impactful is absolutely an understatement. I really cannot put any quantitative value onto what I was able to apprehend in those moments. But every waking moment that I had there, even if it was walking up to Edinburgh Castle, where it's just like this, it's called the Royal Mile, but it's a mile of just slowly going up. So I would get on a treadmill to practice for it, just to make sure that I could walk up a slight grade that's just constant, walking by buildings that are 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 years old, walking up to a castle that's 1,000 years old, 900 to 1,000 years old. And just, it's, I love it here. I really do. But that's, whenever I go back to Scotland, it feels like home. And that's the impact that it had on me.
Yeah, certainly. I think just from hearing you talk about it and knowing you so well already, it's what seems to be one of the most impactful experiences of your life, and really allowed for a quite dramatic, I don't want to say turning point, but like a dramatic catalyst for taking the pain and the challenge of everything you experienced with the bone marrow transplant and turning it into the opportunity that it could create. It helped me go back to my foundation and just patch any holes. Yeah. Any crevices or cracks that were there in the columns. That was a time for me to go back down there, get to the basement of everything, and go, okay, let's get all this kind of back in order. Because when I go back home, it's gonna have to be like jump right back on the horse, and it's taking off, and I need to be ready to hold on to it. Yeah. And it was cool for you to come back to see you come back from that, because I could tell a very dramatic shift in your spirit, more than I'd probably ever seen before from you, in especially such a short period of time from when you left versus when you came back. And that was quite exciting to see, because it was literally our message playing out in real life, which was just phenomenal. But we kind of pivot from there. We had the episode with Allie after that, and then we started coming more into the summer months. And it was at that point that we really start diving into the Paranationals meet. We chatted about with Clayton, we chatted about with Johnny, and we really started building the ramp up to the 500-pound squat, which I don't want to spend too awful much time on, because we've already dived so deep into it on many, many episodes. We will link some of those below. But that prep up to the 500-pound squat was by far a more demanding time period of my life, as far as just some of that absolutely unmitigated discipline that we talked about with Jaden than I'd ever experienced before in my life. And it was really good for me because even though that time period I had to be more of an athlete and less of an entrepreneur, podcaster, all the other hats that I wear, I learned a lot from it. Not just how to lift, how to train, how to grow, how to build a skill, but I learned about my own capacity to do so. And in doing that, I've directly carried those lessons and those disciplines I carried during that time. I've directly translated them to Impossible Performance and to this podcast. And it's what has allowed me to massively increase the level of discipline in my own approach to this platform and to this business and in my day-to-day life since then. And so that was a massive, massive driver for me. But one of the biggest things I take away from that experience of driving toward the impossible, or driving toward the 500-pound squat, was that unruly faith in your own potential. Because you guys know I've talked so much on here about some of the health challenges I face as a result of the chemotherapy I underwent, even over a decade ago. And there were times 6 weeks out from the moment I'm supposed to squat 500 pounds that I'm like trembling under 385 pounds.
Yeah.
And man, in those moments when you're in that spot where you're trembling under this weight, and here you are supposed to go 125 pounds heavier in just 6 weeks, more weight by far than you've ever squatted or even put on your back in your life, it demands an unbelievably high amount of mental strength, emotional strength, spiritual strength to be able to even trust the process and keep showing up to put in every single training session that needs to be put in to make sure you achieve the results you've set yourself out to achieve. And there was just so much that I learned for myself in that time point building up to that.
Well, it was clear as day the shift that you had to make. Like it was, especially I remember that moment in training where you were like, I have to add how many pounds to this to get to that 500, and in between that and then your interactions with Curtis is also just again a testament to him being the person that you needed in that moment to be like, if you want to do it, and you're like, we're doing it, he's like, well, then we will find a way. And so that moment was a huge shift.
It was. And it was, again, it's like we talk about these moments of extreme challenge, these moments of impossible challenge, as difficult as they can be to sit in those moments where you have those fears, those anxieties, those doubts creep up within you. Those are the moments where you will, if you maintain your dedication to that goal, you don't give in, you trust in the process, you have unruly faith in your own potential, and you are brave enough and willing enough to face the impossible. Those are the moments you will grow in your life more than any other moment, I promise you. And so if you're in a spot right now where you're facing an impossible challenge, or you're considering taking on a challenge or striving toward a goal that you're not sure if you can do or not, the one piece of advice I can tell you, the one comfort I can give you right now is that by doing so, you will grow more than you've ever grown in a singular time period in your life. And no matter what the ultimate outcome is, no matter what challenges or hardships this season of your life may have in store for you, you can at least take solace in the knowledge that you will grow more than you've ever grown in your life before. And you will take these lessons that you're learning right now, these skills that you're mastering, this level of discipline that you're building, and you can carry that into every single pursuit you take on beyond this. And that will be a life-changing outcome for you. And that's what the prep and the build up to the 500-pound squat was for me. And then there was the squat itself, the day itself, August 23rd, 2025. And that is a date I will never forget for as long as I live. Because never before had one day, and honestly, one lift ever dramatically shifted who I was and what I was capable of more than that lift. And I'm not going to belabor the point too much because, again, we've dived heavily into this on so many previous episodes, and we'll link those below. But coming up to that 500 pounds of weight, putting it on my back, feeling as if it's going to crush me, and then choosing to move with it anyway. And then having it totally actually crush me the first time around, falling under that weight, and then coming back 5 minutes later to attempt that same weight again, and having to take that time of, okay, I failed this weight. I failed it miserably. It completely collapsed me. It wasn't like, oh, he almost had it. If he comes back and does this little tiny thing, he'll definitely get it. Yeah, there were definitely some key points that I had to fix, which Curtis, my coach, he thankfully he was there and he saw it, and he is an experienced enough coach and just an incredible athlete himself to be able to say, hey, these are 2 small shifts you need to make, and they will make a massive difference the next time around. That squat wouldn't have happened without him, but it wasn't just that. I completely crumbled under that weight the first time I took it. And 5 minutes later, I come back as a man who gets under that same weight, is brave enough to get under that same weight again, but then also strong enough to move with it clear to depth and to push and to take that split second moment to make that decision that we all have to make at some point in our lives and say, I'm going to go. I'm going to come up with this weight. I'm going to push harder than I've ever pushed in my life for anything. I'm going to have an unruly faith in my own potential. And I'm going to unleash this impossible version of myself that I have created. And it's that man that will do the impossible. And it's that version of myself that did the impossible. Because in those 5 minutes, I was able to put myself in a position that nothing changes physically in 5 minutes. If anything, I was weaker physically 5 minutes later because I'd just gone through the process of trying to move with that weight and expended so much energy. So if anything, I was physically a little bit weaker, but nothing changed physically in those moments. Yeah, I changed some of my positioning. I changed some of my approach, some of the mental cues that are some of the physical cues that I was using at those moments. But what changed was my mental, emotional, and spiritual state. What changed is the person who I was under the bar in those 5 minutes. And that's really where the heart of everything we do at Impossible Performance, that's where the heart of you and I lie, is in those moments where it should absolutely be completely impossible. And yet somehow it comes to life.
We find a way.
Yeah. And so, again, I won't belabor the point, but
it was a brilliant day, an absolutely brilliant day to witness, and for you were so not only like somewhat docile, but you were just confident when you sat back down after the second one. You were just like, I'll get it.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's what we're here to do, to execute, and you did.
Yeah. And those, honestly, I think it's always been a little bit part of the fabric of my being, but those are the moments where I come alive more than anything else. Those moments where there's absolutely no way it should happen. Those are the moments where I get most excited, because in those moments lies the most opportunity. And there's the level of potential we have to shift what is inside of us into something that could not or should not ever have existed, that impossible version of ourselves that can come forth and even go so far as even to manipulate our own physiology to be able to perform in ways that are impossible. That's what I live for. And that's what we have built this entire platform, this entire mindset around. And that's what we're sharing with people in a way that nobody else can. Mm-hmm. And so it's those moments I'm most thankful for in life. And having the honor of being able to compete in that para meet, being able to perform with those other lifters of that day, all doing the same level of impossible in their own right, was just, again, it's something I will never forget. It will always be such a powerful memory and experience for me, that day in 2025. And moving out from there, we actually got to the very next day have Jared and Shiro on the podcast from the platform. And that was just an awesome discussion. I was in so much pain, but it was so cool to learn about their life experience and to chat with them about their own process of facing the impossible and the things they've overcome in their lives, and the lessons they've learned, the things they've built, and the people they are helping, the lives they're changing. Mm-hmm. It was so cool to be able to sit down and chat with them and learn from them in that capacity. And one of the things I think I'll always remember the most from that episode is just kind of the unmitigated dedication to what they're chasing, to what they're building. There's just like no question in their mind of what they're going to wake up and do every single day for the rest of their life, because they found it. They found their passion. They found their purpose. And I have no doubts that they're dedicating every waking moment of their lives to that for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool to see that in people. Even if it's something similar or something different from what you're chasing, it's really refreshing, really cool, really exciting to see that in people. And that's what we saw from Jared and Shira. And moving on from there, we actually got to kind of change gears quite a lot. And while we released our first episode with this new multicam setup, it wasn't the final form of the studio that we have now, but we got our second camera, got it hooked up, got it in place, had no idea what we were doing. When we hit record on that episode, we had no idea how we were going to edit it even. But we'd been in that spot before. We knew we'd figure it out, and we made it happen, and it changed the production level of this podcast and this platform more so than any other singular move we've done in the past. So that was cool, and I appreciate the work you did in making that happen and figuring that out from kind of a production side as well.
Like where we've come to, especially looking at some of the original episodes of video, like it's been incredible to be a part of, to see something grow like this and to evolve like right in front of our eyes. It's necessary, and it's hopefully as helpful as it's been for us and for the guests that we've had. I hope that it just continues to grow within that realm, because it's just been, it's been so wildly. It's like, for me, it's, I don't have a child, but it's been like watching, something grow that we started off just, a love seat and a big chair with 3 microphones to now this masterfully crafted, beautiful table, to the microphones that, these microphones have been, day one microphones, and to the 2 camera setup, to the studio lights, to the additional lights, to the soundproofing, to the paint, and then to everything that's going to be coming here very, very soon. It's wild to see that growth, but it's not only seeing it on YouTube, but for us to have seen it in person. It's going to be really exciting to see and to have some of the guests that were on in the past that got to experience the very, very white walls that we had up here, and
the bare cement wall,
bare cement wall, white pegboard, an interestingly designed love seat
that Lauren had bought already secondhand at a thrift shop when she was in college.
It looked
been with
incredible.
us for 10 years.
Wasn't a bad design.
Yeah, it
was lovely. And to now, this is just it. Not to say that we couldn't have felt some sort of success if we were still at that point, but come on, the evolution that we've been able to endure here with this setup and where it's going, and we know where it's going, is just so. It's so overwhelmingly exciting to think about. Like it really is. It's like, man, like where can we go with this? And we've seen some production setups of the elite podcasts that were like, all right, we're gonna need a little help. We need a crew, but to the fact that we've gotten to this point here, and especially with the help of Andrew, not to say that it's just been you and I, but to have gotten to here in this moment and to see what is possible, the potential of this is just, we've come so far, but there's so far to go. And it's exciting. It's at least for me, it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to have whatever impact I could have on this, to then offer to people, in terms of the service that we're trying to offer here.
Well, and it's like you brought up, it's certainly the same construct as raising a child. You start from day one, no idea in the world what you're doing.
Right.
No idea in the world what you're in for.
You can prep and read whatever you want.
You just gotta, at some point, you like when that baby's there and it's living and breathing, you're like, all right, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out, and you do, And I always tell people, I still tell people to this day, and I've said the same thing since day one, that had you not been here, it would have started and probably would still be just me talking into a laptop laptop little tiny camera, with AirPods in my ear, just probably, just yelling at people, probably nobody listening, and that's what it would be from a production standpoint. But one idea that you brought up from the beginning, and the second I heard, I was like,
hello everyone.
Yeah, something like that. But one idea you brought up since the beginning that I just immediately, I heard, I was like, yes, that is it. Is you said, and it's the reason we've had these microphones since day one, you said, with the ideas, with the stories, with the guests, with everything we'll be doing with this show, it is worthy of a very high level of production. we honor those stories, those lessons, those people. We've had guests on this show that are no longer in this world. And we got to play a powerful part in continuing on their memory, their legacy, by providing them a platform with the highest level of production we could possibly provide, so that we could capture their memory, their story, their literal voice in the highest quality we could, so that anybody who listens to it for years, for decades to come, will get to hear, and so much more than that, they'll get to internalize those lessons, those messages at a level worthy of who those people were and who those people are. And dude, that's an honor, and more than that, that's a responsibility that even goes beyond words. And so, dude, I appreciate you driving us forward in this capacity, because as fun as it would be, nobody wants to just see me screaming into a laptop microphone. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, it's right back at you, man, because obviously, I mean, sure, I can build you a really nice car, but somebody's got to drive it.
Somebody's got to be Max Verstappen.
Somebody's
got to be Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody has to drive it. Yeah. You're the one that's been driving this, man.
Nah, dude, it's
your interviewing skills. It's really awesome to see the evolution of that as well, of how you being the conductor, the director of the episode, of going back to some of the earlier episodes and seeing what that was like. And not to say that I'm not in any way insinuating that it was, some rough edged, like, spiky bed that I'm trying to lay on, and that was your interviewing skills. But it just, from there until now, it's quite clear that it should be it should be quite clear that the search and the pursuit of the impossible is grotesquely and grandiosely, if that's even a word, clear to those who are watching and listening to this, that we are on the pursuit of the impossible, to find those who have pursued, are pursuing, or are trying to pursue the impossible. Like, it should be quite clear to people that is the path that we are on, and that we are extremely serious about this, and that comes across very clear, I feel, in one of the main factors of that equation being fulfilled is due to the interviewing skills that you've had. Like, I sit there and I just, I watch such a extremely genuine and fruitful and beneficial conversation appear right in front of my eyes, and it's been incredible to witness. So yeah, when you came to me and you said, hey, like, what microphones do we need, I'm like, I already know. I think I told you in that moment.
There's only one answer.
I was just like, oh, sure, SM7B. Like, we just have to get it. And I knew that if I could at least build a proper vehicle, that obviously we're going to, add on parts and really cool aftermarket parts and a bigger turbocharger and all that other stuff to it. But, like, somebody's got to drive it. Like, and that was you. So,
well, it's just funny how life happens sometimes, in that when I was coming out of the darkest places in my life, arguably the most powerful vector that guided me toward a more positive path and kept me on that path and allowed me to go further down that path was podcasts, and listening to some of the greats, Joe Rogan, Jocko Willink. Actually, when I started, Andrew Huberman's podcast was not even a thing yet, but when it came out, I jumped on it shortly after it was released. Lex Friedman, and then probably one of the biggest ones was Mark Bell's podcast, which, again, funny enough, Andrew was the producer for. And at the time of listening to that, I knew of him because he had a voice on the podcast as well. And I was like, man, that's like, you dream about your heroes, and it's like, man, that's like leagues, worlds, universes beyond where I am right now. And who would have known that 5 very short years later, we would be in contact and working with him in a certain capacity and creating our own show, and getting the opportunity to learn and grow from him in those same ways that he learned and grew as he built Mark Bell's podcast. But that was one of the most influential podcasts for me. And it was what got me into powerlifting, got me on a more discipline-driven path, got me in the weight room, got me training. And in a lot of ways, what we're doing now never would have happened without them. But even beyond that, I'd have to sit down and do some serious math trying to quantify it, but I will guarantee you in that time from when I started listening to podcasts, getting on a better path, and that time we started our own show, I will guarantee you I listened to 10,000 hours of podcasts, minimum. You talk about, and we hear about 10,000 hours being the amount of time you got to put into something to get really good at something. And I wasn't even practicing the craft myself at that time. But you listen to 10,000 hours of people having podcast discussions, you'll have
you're going to catch on to it.
You'll have a medium decent idea of how a good podcaster podcasts,
Right.
And so it was funny. I'm talking like some of the first 10 episodes we recorded and released. It was funny. Some of those first guests, they'd be like, "Man, you're a really good interviewer." I was like, well, I've put in a time or two of listening to people, even though it was my very first time doing it myself. From day one, I was just like, I'm just going to do what these guys did, and they're some of the best in the world at it. So I'm just going to kind of do what they did. And it was always surprising to me. I never felt like I was inherently that good of I hate applying the term interview to a podcast session, especially in the capacity in which we do it, because I don't think it's an interview so much as it is a discussion, a conversation, where we learn and grow together. But it was just so funny that people would say that. I was like, well, really, it's just like it comes natural to me at this point because I've immersed myself in it so heavily for so long. I never really had to think about it that much. Yeah, there were definitely some little quirks here and there. You had to help me work out for sure, like the yeah yeah
oh yeah
mm-hmm.
yeah
we had to work that out a little bit, but
you want to be engaging, you gotta again, trial by fire. So it happened.
Resisting the urge to say yeah right now.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But it was, it was like, so we had to work some of those things out, but overall, it just felt like so natural to me. It felt like something he's still laughing, by the way.
Oh my.
No, it's honestly so funny to and it's so just like enlightening, so humorous, and so just enjoyable to go back and think of some of those little things like that. We had to learn along the way, but yeah, it felt for the most part just so natural because of all those people I got to learn from for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours.
Yeah.
And who knew then? I mean, back then I was just like looking for anything to cling to that was a more positive path than the one I'd been on. But who knew then that I was building that skill within myself, because 5 years later I would be, we would be doing that same thing ourselves and building a platform to which we aspire, and we will build that level of a platform. And it all started right there. But I had no idea at the time that that was a skill I was building within myself.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
I was holding it in, man. Yeah,
it's hard once you realize this. You're like, are there other words out there?
Alrighty then.
Yeah. But it was. I guess we're going back a little further than just the past year, but it's exciting to sit back and think of some of those times early on, and the paths that led to that, and even more exciting, the path we're on now and where it will lead. And that kind of coming out of that 500-pound squat into this massive shift in production, it was kind of cool because it lined up from a timeline perspective, but it also was a significant marker and a significant change in just how seriously we were approaching and taking on these tasks and these episodes day to day. Like, no longer was it, not that we were treating it as an amateur craft before, but we certainly stepped into the phase of becoming true professionals in our approach to what we're doing here, but also our the level of seriousness in which we were taking on every single episode, every single day, every single minute of what we were doing, every single little detail. So, kind of from that point on, it became certainly a more professional craft for us. And it was that shift. It took that kind of shift to be able to now be on the path we are now, into building it into a platform of that level of some of the greats out there. And so it's just such an exciting time period for me, that kind of August into September, and September was really a month of kind of figuring it out. And then, going into October and November now, to the point where now, just months later, but now we've really got quite a refined understanding of what it takes to operate at this level. Mm-hmm. And so that's been really cool. But one of the coolest discussions we got to have at that time period was with Addie, one of the members of our family, and one of a dear, cherished friend, and somebody who, like, all of these episodes are great, but that would be a cool one to go back and listen to if you guys haven't heard it yet, because for somebody, I hate saying of her age, but like somebody of her experience in life thus far, to have the level of just seriousness, the level of earnest, the level of
productivity and determination.
Yeah, determination. That's the word I was looking for. Into what she was doing, and to having just kind of unmitigated belief in what she was doing and what she's building today. Like, that was so cool to hear. So cool to hear. And just seeing that, again, like that unruly faith in her own potential to build what she was going to build, and not being afraid of what she wanted to build at all, and not even being apologetic for what she wanted to build. Like, that discussion was her on a mission, and it was her laying out that mission. And it was really cool because in a lot of ways it felt like we were recording some of the very beginnings, some of the very foundations of, as she said herself, an empire that is to come. And
because we were able to have an extremely close view into the crucible of which her mindset and her goals were being formed. Like, not necessarily that they were extremely fresh, but I mean, she was so close to that timing and having things organized to where she was shaping them actively and with, again, with ferocity and purpose, that getting to be that close to the fire was an incredible experience, because you're getting to see, I mean, that sort of access, as we know, can be an extremely vulnerable feeling and act for someone to be giving access to somebody else with or for. And so seeing that mindset and that purpose being formed right there was really, really incredible to experience, and to see it coming to life right now is certainly, not to speak for others within the family, but at least for myself, to see her and Matthew really taking life and showing it in others what can be done with it is incredible to experience.
Yeah, it was definitely a shift in the level of content, the level of conversation, the power of a discussion that we were able to capture. So not just were we having massive shifts in production, but massive shifts in our own, in the very content of the conversation, in the discussion, and therefore the power of it to be able to impact other people's lives, for them to be able to take that into their own life and make it actionable, and be able to use it to further drive their pursuits, just as I had used podcasts to drive my own pursuits and find a path for myself so many years ago, almost a decade ago at this point. And that was very exciting for me, because it felt like, not that I had come full circle to say, but it felt like, just as I had used this vector to drive so much positive growth in myself all those years ago, now we're able to be that vector for other people. And that's always just some of the most empowering and exciting feelings you could ever experience in life. And it really kind of started shifting after that 500-pound squat, and Addie was the first of many conversations at that level that happened in a very short period of time. And it's kind of funny, I'm looking through this list of what came after that and what's come in just the last few months, and I'm like, man, we could talk for an hour on each one of these guests just about the conversation we had with them. But we'll put those links below so you guys can check them out. But coming after Addie, we had Jason Bales, which is probably just what it was, one of those episodes where it's just like every single line, I'm like, man, that is just an unbelievable, that's such a short, simple, perfect line that is so actionable that people can use in their lives right now, and toward any goal they're chasing. We talked a lot about training and health and nutrition, especially as you age, and get kind of that past that 50 plus time period in your life. But man, all of those lines are just so powerful in any pursuit in life. And from Jason, we come out and we got to learn from James Spurgeon, who is just one of the strongest, most powerful, just unbelievable athletes we've ever got to interact with. And beyond that, I don't think you and I have ever laughed on a podcast episode more than we did with James.
That was a good time.
Like, he is
that was a really good time.
He's just one of those people that when you're around him, his spirit for life, his joie de vivre, as the French would say, just infects you, and it just makes you it just slaps a smile right on your face. Whether you want it there or not, he is going to make you laugh. He is going to make you smile. And beyond that, he is an unbelievable athlete. So guys, you just got to check that episode out. It was such a cool experience to have him in the studio here. And coming out from James's episode, the very next week, we drop an episode with the race director of the Columbus Marathon. It's the first time we've ever traveled for a podcast. We found a new level of joy and challenge and just kind of fun in that.
Yeah.
But man, again, what a powerful conversation we got to share with him. And for me, it was, again, another one of those full circle moments of like, this is the marathon. This is the race that was probably a more dramatic turning point in my life than I've ever had before. And who knew back in 2017, when I first crossed that finish line and first felt the power of that race and first had my eyes totally open to my own potential, that 7 years later I'd be sitting across the table from the race director himself and learning and growing from him and getting able to share the power of that marathon and being able to give that to other people and show them kind of some of the behind the scenes and the journey that the marathon itself has taken over the past few decades. So it was just, man, that's another episode I will always be so thankful of. And just in the last, what's crazy is like, now we're to the point of reviewing just the last 3 months of the podcast. 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, rock star guest. And it's so cool to see that, because that's the trajectory we're on now. We get the honor of being able to sit with and learn from and grow from and be able to kind of bring forth the lessons and the mindsets and the ideals that so many of these impossible people share. And we get to, share them with our listeners. We get to give them to you guys in your own pursuits in life. And this is what we've set out to do since day one. And now we get to live it every single day. And that's just so cool. But yeah, I definitely appreciate your expertise coming forth and setting up that studio for that Columbus Marathon podcast, because it was not an easy task.
That was a tight space.
It was we operate in a fairly tight space in our studio here. I'm talking like not half, maybe not even a quarter of the space
of just room to set stuff up, and I appreciate the space and appreciate the location and all that stuff.
Oh, dude, it was an awesome location.
But
such a cool location.
If we could have had like 2 more outlets, that's all we needed.
Yeah, we're gonna travel with more outlets next time, or more power strips next time.
Just 2 more outlets would have been phenomenal.
But as with everything else, like,
we adapted.
Yeah, we adapted. We made it work. We believed we could do it, and it happened, and it ended up being just a great episode. And I love the look of the production and the setup for everything. So just phenomenal. And coming out of that, we actually, it felt like a long time between there, but really pretty quickly we turned around into recording with Natalie at her gym.
Yeah.
And I think, man, just again, one of the most powerful episodes of the year. It was another one of those episodes where it's just like every single line out of her mouth was just like, man, that's so actionable. It's so powerful. Such a great lesson we can all internalize and use in our own pursuits. And I mean, you guys know Natalie. That was her 3rd time on the podcast, and she is just always such a powerful individual to learn from and to grow from. And again, we traveled for that one as well, and it was such a cool setup, just having all the gym equipment in the background. I think that episode, probably more than any others, is where we got to see the power of these cameras we have really come to life, and in their ability to stay laser focused on the subject and provide just such a dynamic 3D background to the space behind us. Sorry,
that is a feature you're in love with it, man. Dude, it's awesome because
I geek out over it so hard.
Yeah, the cameras are really incredible. But yeah, and it was having the chalkboard in the background, and I must say, I'm really thankful there was a 6-foot table there. Otherwise, that episode would have turned out very differently. We'd
have figured something out, but it wouldn't have been quite the same.
Microphones would have been, we would have been holding microphones.
Yeah, probably.
Because we were also very hungry.
Yeah. Oh, we were, dude.
Yeah.
We got some good food after that one.
We recorded post training, but prior to food. And Matt and I had already been up for 4 hours by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Food.
And from her, we go straight into our 2nd episode with Curtis. Kind of initially the idea was to review the process of the 500-pound squat and show people how you can pursue something impossible that should be impossible, and how you can have challenge after challenge after challenge come up that makes it seem like it just should not happen, but you can stay dedicated to the path and still work to overcome. But we ended up going so much deeper than that. We dived into men's mental health. We dived into just the philosophy of life, which coming from a strength and conditioning powerlifting coach, this is where Curtis shines, not just as an athlete, not just as a coach, but as a human, is that he can take the craft that he loves, the craft that he is more passionate about than anything else in life, and the craft that really is just, his purpose in life. And he can elucidate from that messages, practices, skills that can be applied to our own lives in general, and can then be used in any pursuit that we may have. Yeah, he's a powerlifting coach, but he can teach you how to write. He can teach you how to think. He can teach you how to live from the skills he's gained as a powerlifting athlete and as a coach in that craft. And it's because in all of these crafts, the craft can be so unique, so different. But so many of the theories and the philosophies behind it are the same. And one of the big things he said in that podcast was training is life. And he doesn't mean that training is everything there is to life, but he means that the lessons we learn in training carry directly over to life, and carry directly over to so many other pursuits. And that's, again, why it's such an honor to be able to have this platform, because we see that time and again, and we get to see it through so many lenses. We see these same ideas, these same philosophies pop up from totally different crafts. And we saw it there because directly from Curtis, we do kind of a 180, and we got to have a chat with Micalyn Harris again, second time on the podcast. And bro, what a powerful conversation that was. She is such a powerful human.
Yeah, it's her. That entire discussion was just a show of, it's an example of what sheer force and will and direction, guiding that force, how fearsome but also how successful of a human being you can be.
Yeah. When you can unapologetically know your path and be willing to do whatever it takes to move down it toward a goal that should be impossible. She had terminal cancer.
Yeah.
She's not even supposed to be alive right now. And not only is she alive, but she is cancer-free and she is off treatment. None of those things were supposed to happen. All of those things were impossible. Yet there she sat directly across from us and just put forth lesson after lesson about overcoming impossible challenge, finding the opportunity within it, and cherishing and building a life that you dream of. And that's Micalyn Harris, to a T. And last, but certainly not least, the man himself, Mr. Paul Maxwing. Actually, his second time on the podcast this year, and probably his third or fourth time on the podcast in total.
I think third, yeah.
Third. But we just love Paul. Paul, if you're listening right now, we love you.
We love you, man.
You know it. You know it. We talk to you every day.
Big Paul.
And we always learn something, and we always laugh every single day.
Yes.
Because you just have such a beautiful view of the world. And I love Paul because he can just be totally stoic-faced. You just have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth. But whatever comes out of his mouth is just going to be pure gold.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a comedic perspective or from a moral lesson in life perspective.
Yeah, life lesson, yeah.
It's going to be gold. And he was wearing a gold shirt that day, coincidentally enough. But it was just, again, what a great discussion. We dived into parenthood. We dived into facing unknown, unexpected challenge And how do you go from a situation where you are at the very peak height of your potential in your craft, about to be able to perform in a way you've never been able to perform before, and within the span of a week, all of that gets flipped on its head.
Mm-hmm.
When the day he's supposed to be performing on the platform at a higher level than he's ever performed before, he's in the hospital and we're visiting him. And that is just a stark reminder of what life is. Life is not easy, it's not predictable, it's not even manageable sometimes. But with the messages we put forth on this podcast, with the ideas we get to learn from this podcast, the lessons people pull from the impossible challenge they face in their own lives, and we get to share with you guys, and we get to learn from ourselves, it builds within you a capacity for strength that can be carried to any challenge you face in life. And that's what it means to be impossible. It means that no matter what comes up, what comes at you in life, you will be absolutely ready for it. Not that it won't be scary, not that it won't be frustrating, not that it won't even kind of cause you to question the fabric of your own being, because the impossible will do that. But with a strong enough dedication to this mission, this mindset, this message we put forth, you will absolutely be ready for any challenge that comes your way. Because you will know that you have created an impossible version of yourself. And you will continue to create that impossible version of yourself, so that any challenge that comes along the way, you know you will either already be the person, or you will create the person who is going to have the capacity to overcome it. And I think what a better person to learn that from than Mr. Paul Maxwin himself. But it's been a year, brother.
It has.
It's been a year of discovery.
It's been one, pardon my French, but been one hell of a year.
Yeah. It's unbelievable to think that, like, man, just thinking back, it feels like that. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, it feels like going through that bone marrow biopsy with you was just, or not the bone marrow biopsy, bone marrow transplant.
That would have been
quite different things. That would have been
very easy.
Quite different things, mind you. quite different things. Because it just feels so long ago because of what, I don't want to say what different people we were back then, but just the immense growth we've been able to make in this past year in our personal lives, in our family, on our platform, in so many different aspects. The growth we've made in this past year through consistent correct action over just a year's period, it makes it feel as if it was almost a lifetime ago in some ways.
Yeah, well, and that's where I would say, at least for me, and I'm totally fine with making this specification, or what's the word?
This claim.
The clarification.
Yeah.
Is that I would say after the first round of treatment coming into 2023, I was a different person than I am now, and then the relapse going into Houston, I sort of morphed into the person that I am now, but post bone marrow transplant is where I had finally come to the realization, but I also had found and was able to see where I could go as an individual after that said change after Houston. So 2024 was for me a very big change in who I was. I am a different person from 2022 and 2023. 2024, there was a big, like I changed mountains that I was climbing on almost immediately. Like there was a very, very different path that I had found. And then this year has just simply been the compounding experiences into the realization that not only I'm on the right path, but that the path is going to be, it will be, I'm not hoping for it to be, I'm intending on it to be something that is not only worthwhile of the change and the evolution of self, but also in terms of our purpose of serving the serving self, which leads to family, which leads to community, which leads to society. That is what has come to light with the most bright of spotlights upon it, like a Steven Spielberg film, for any of those who get that reference. That kind of illumination upon what our service has been, is now, and what it will become. I now see something that is so beautiful that it doesn't, but it may rival the vistas that I got to experience in Scotland. So it is, for me, I would say that there was a change. There was a very different, may have always been there, but I think a very different Austin has come to fruition in 2025, or 2024, and then 2025 this year is is where I have found that clarification, that sort of focusing of the lenses of going like, oh, this is the path. And it's so beautiful to be able to experience and to know, not to hope for, to know what is coming. It is the most beautiful feeling that I have been able to experience.
Love it, brother. We'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting is like, man, we know some of what's coming, but just as when we sat in these seats, well, very different seats than very different seats 1 year ago, we had no idea some of the stuff we'd get to do this year, and just the level of growth and change and transition we'd get to make. But here we are, and what's exciting is to think if we made the level of change and growth and opportunity that we had in this past year, what is going to come next year. And that's quite exciting to think about. So I know we'll be at the same table next year, because I can't imagine more perfectly constructed table.
We're gonna keep this one for a little bit.
There's going to be some unbelievable power coming from the words of man that will reverberate off the wood of this table.
Very sturdy wood. It's American too. American wood. I had to say that. Yeah.
White elm from the heart of Ohio, the heart of America.
Mm-hmm. Heart of America.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you for checking out this episode today. Thank you for kind of reviewing this past year with us and diving into these lessons. I don't think I realized that when we first got into it, just even how much we had gotten to experience this past year, exactly what we had gotten to learn, the dramatic shift that we've been able to make in this platform over the past year. And it's been a really fun experience, fun journey to kind of go back and review everything and walk down that path again. So appreciate you guys joining us in this episode today, on this journey. Any of these episodes that seemed exciting to you, and we did not cover them all. There's so many others that are just so powerful in their own right. But we're going to put a lot of these episodes we mentioned today. We'll put all the episodes we mentioned today, the direct link to them in the show notes. So if any of them caught your interest, piqued your attention, definitely go down in the show notes, click the link to the full episode, and check it out. The production may look quite different depending on where in the year you are, but if you can hang with us through the production, I promise you the lessons within, the content within, the discussion within is such a high level and such a fun experience. So we promise we are bringing even more for 2026. As always, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you got something out of today's episode or any of the episodes on this platform, please share it with someone else, because that is how we do everything we are aspiring to do with Impossible Performance. Because we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. We'll see you all in 2026. And as always, be impossible.